Hello, I'm Temple Cooley, a program officer at the David and Lucille Packard Foundation. At the foundation, I serve as the grant-making and strategy lead in the Global Reproductive Health team. And starting a few months ago, with many thanks to the WomenLift Health Project, I now co-chair a cross-foundation gender equity learning collaborative. Let me say a little bit about how I landed on this particular project. In 2022, the foundation adopted a new set of goals and commitments, including for the first time a cross-cutting commitment to gender equity. What shape this commitment takes, how it will manifest across the foundation, and how it will be measured were at the time, and still to a certain extent are, to be determined. I was among a group of people who advocated internally for this commitment, so I was very excited to see it taken up. However, given that it is cross-cutting, it does not have dedicated staff, nor does it have its own funding stream, even though gender equity is and has been a part of what many of our initiatives do within their broader objectives. So in the hopes of elevating the commitment and supporting its adoption across the foundation, I and another colleague volunteered to create and lead a cross-foundation gender equity collaborative. Before I say more about the collaborative, let me say why this was important to me. I've worked in reproductive health for 20 plus years, and in that time, I've seen over and over again the ways in which gender inequity and harmful gender norms negatively impact the health outcomes of not just women and girls, but also boys and men, and of course, non-binary, trans, and gay individuals. Also, around 2022, I started to see more data about the ways in which gender inequity is an issue, even in the field of philanthropic giving, even when that giving is meant to support gender equity. So let me share a little bit of that data. In 2020, less than 1.8% of total US charitable giving went to women and girls charities, and less than 1% was directed to women's rights organizations. Roughly half of women's rights organizations in low and middle income countries operate on a median annual budget of $30,000 or less and have never received core or multi-year funding. So looking at this data and in the hopes of embracing and making our foundation's gender equity commitment greater, we launched the collaborative. Since June, we've taken a number of steps. I'll walk through a few of those here. I won't read all of the orange boxes. But just to say that after we had secured executive buy-in and an executive sponsor, we had to identify members. These are largely staff who have direct input into strategies and grant-making decisions, but also representatives from our communications, legal, and other important cross-functional teams. We held office hours so that we could explain to people what we were trying to do with the collaborative and essentially recruit members. Once we had our members, we co-created a charter for the group, and then we started hosting bi-monthly meetings. We've only had a few so far, but in those, we've landscaped the current ways teams are thinking about gender equity, how it shows up in their work already. We've generated agreement on shared language and terms, and we've reviewed how the gender equity commitment will be captured through our foundation-wide learning plan and grant tagging. I and several other colleagues also joined an external donor learning group where we could learn more about the gender equity work of other foundations who are further ahead in this journey, such as Gates, Ford, and others, and even share our particular challenges and get feedback from the group. As we head into the first half of 2024, one of the things we're going to do that I'm really excited about is starting a learning by doing or sandbox approach, where two grant-making groups will take a deeper dive as a team to explore and document in more concrete terms what the gender equity commitment will look like within our grant-making strategy. So thinking not only about how we can improve gender equity through what we fund, but also through who and how we fund. This work has not been without challenges, and I will highlight just a couple. The first is that some in the group have questioned whether it would be better to have a very specific, concrete gender equity commitment for the foundation, a bold statement beyond just the general commitment to gender equity. But what we've heard from others who've walked this path before is that the general commitment can be good, particularly for a foundation with many different types of grant-making areas. It provides a North Star while allowing each initiative or grant-making area to apply the commitment in a way that makes sense for their own strategies. In other words, what works for the reproductive health team may not work for the oceans team or the democracy team, but we can all be united in integrating more of a gender equity lens and that gender equity commitment in the work that we do. The other challenge is just that this work has moved at a slower pace than I had hoped. This is largely because the collaborative leads, myself included, and participants all have other primary jobs. And though we are a coalition of the very, very willing, we can only move so fast. But we have a good plan for 2024, and I am excited to keep working on this project. So in closing, I would just like to thank the WomenLift Health organizers. They have equipped me with tools and resources and new ways of thinking about my own leadership strengths and how I might apply them to this project. I want to thank my mentor and my coach, both of whom were terrific, and the other participants who provided me with a lot of support and encouragement. And lastly, I want to thank several colleagues at the foundation for their support. Those are Ruth Levine, Karuna Chipper, Ananya Vajpayee, and Lana Dakin. Thank you.